Hey guys, Brain Smasher here today. We're going to be talking about the new Helloween record. Which I need to be evangelical about with you. I'm so overwhelmed by how impressed I am with the new Helloween record, which is self-titled. So let me tell you a little bit about the backstory on it. I am a big Helloween fan, but all I've ever needed really was Keeper of the Seven Keys, Part 1 and 2. Those are some of the most perfect metal records of the 80s whatsoever. Members of the band since that album have left, especially the guitar player. And then a couple albums later, the singer left. So the band kind of limped along, being not the band that I once knew them for a long time. So I checked out. I was good. Like Once Better Than Raw came out. I'm honestly before that actually. I wasn't all that invested in checking out any of their new stuff. Power metal, isn't really a huge genre to me. So, I was like, I'm good with Helloween. If they never do anything good again, fine. So the guitar player is back and the singer is back. And so the four core members are back, along with a couple of musicians who have been with them for about 20 years now or so. So, I feel like they must have had a very consistent personality up until this point, and so to have the two members who left way back when to have those members come back to the fold and to add the personality that they helped create the band with to a seasoned couple of musicians, it sounds like these guys were just fucking bursting with creativity, and it sounds so triumphant and happy and joyful that they can once again make Helloween. It feels like there's been a boot on the hose for a couple of years now. I haven't heard many of the Helloween records since Keepers Part 2, honestly. So I'm speaking a little bit above my actual experience, but it really sounds like the Helloween hose has the boot removed from it, and all that was clogged for so long is just busting out into this just amazing fucking record. I feel like this is a perfect iteration of all the things that make power metal what it is, but Helloween to me has always been kind of a little bit more than a power metal band. They have a history of just being so bombastic and experimental with how playful they can be with a lot of their songwriting tropes, a lot of their kind of cheesy, dumb lyrics that they sing. And like no topic is off limits with these guys, it seems. So like they are just fully embellished in their personality that I already love them for. So to have kind of a new iteration of everything that I love about Helloween and have it be so much stronger and so much more like current and relevant and new, to me has just been just insanely exciting. From what I gather, I guess they're Catholic, and the topics of the albums aren't necessarily about the typical things that you would expect maybe like a Christian band or I guess a Catholic power metal band to be about. They're a little bit fantasy, they're a little bit weird, and like the lyrics aren't that great. Let's just be honest. Songs like Dr. Steen, I mean, we aren't really talking about high art here, but so like I don't get caught up in the lyrics whatsoever really, but it kind of paints, I think, a picture of how playful and kind of bizarre Helloween are for being a genre that normally just kind of talks about fantasy and elves and your swords and your cauldrons and your monsters and your dragons and shit like that. They're very, very different, especially the song like Future World on Keepers Part 1. They brought in all different kinds of like arrangements and instrumentation and weird sounds and samples, which for the time was very, very, very weird. And that has always kind of been like the through line for me with Helloween's personality, is that they're willing to do whatever the fuck they want to do, and that's kind of that's like the breaking point. Either you're in or you're out because of how weird of a band Helloween really is. And so for me, that's I think that is where I really fell in love with Helloween, seeing how just absolutely circusy or silly they actually can be. And like, I know that's such a leap for a lot of people who might not already have a love for Helloween. So they're kind of a make or break kind of band. You're either into Helloween or you're not, I think, right away. But it's so much the personality of their themes and their sound that is super vibrant in so many of their records. So I mean, it's an enjoyable record through and through. But on this one in particularly, I've been so impressed with like how many times there's just fancy embellishments going on with the guitar work. There's drum patterns that are just very entertaining and interesting, but there's little flares of extra bursts of interesting things going on there, and I really appreciate that when bands really like take the time to just kind of really beef up a song with a lot more interesting, playful ideas. And like one of those examples is Marcus Grosskopf's bass playing in Helloween has always been really memorable and interesting, and he's one of those bass players that kind of steps away from the main riff of the song, and can noodle around and play around and just give the song so much more extra strength to it without being distracting in any way. I don't know if I can really think of any other examples of where a bass player can carry a song so well by writing things that are quite different from the main guitar riffing that's going on, or stepping away from the vocal melodies as well. He's just kind of back there kind of doing his own thing. He's walking like up and down all over the fretboard with this thing, and it's so fun. It gives the album, and especially this album, such a strong drive to it that it's so playful and entertaining through and through. There's just flourishes of tons of interesting little like instrumental sections where the singers actually kind of step away. One thing I don't think I noted was that the main singer is back, but also Andy Darris, who has been there since, is also singing on a couple of songs, which is something sometimes, especially like in a case with Borknagar, I felt like, man, there's too many singers, too much vocals, too much. You guys need to just like sort your shit out and cool it, maybe one singer per song or something like that. But that isn't really the case with this here. I think it's really done tastefully. Andy Darris has his songs, and they kind of share some duties here and there. It's so tastefully well done to share the vocal booth with a couple of different singers. And overall, it is just a super tasteful album. There's nothing like Helloween is a band that is so over the top about so many things, but it's never been something that I've had any trouble like consuming. It's never too much to me, anyways. I could see that being the case for someone who ordinarily doesn't really listen to this kind of thing. If this isn't your wheelhouse, I honestly recommend to check it out. But it's not going to be hard to figure out if you're into this or not, I feel. The single Skyfall was the first one that they put out for this record a couple of months ago, and it was very apparent that it was very vibrant and fun and experienced of a single. It didn't quite sell me on the album as much as the album did wind up doing so. But just as an album, it has such a perfect playability to it. There's resting moments where there's kind of more theatrical, sort of bombastic, sort of parts going on. I'm not sure what the story about it is. I've tried reading to figure out what the kind of concept about the whole album is. I haven't read the whole thing. It's kind of weird, and I kind of don't really care a whole lot. But from the start of the album, it comes out with like a 7.5 minute long song, which is fucking great. Out for the Glory, then Fear for the Fallen. So it kind of starts to feel like, okay, this album is like super front loaded with a couple of good songs, and then it's going to taper off. But it doesn't. It gets like every fucking song is, once it's done, you're like, that was also another great song from this record. There's really not a moment of rest from tracks on this thing being absolutely solid and great. There's no moments where I'm like, all right, guys, let's get this idea over with or something. They definitely know how to sell you on an idea and then move on to the next part without anything getting boring or overstaying its welcome. It's so tastefully done, and it's apparent that these guys have been writing great songs for so many years. I fucking love this new Helloween record. I cannot get enough of it, and it's really bringing me back to the times, a more innocent time in my youth, when I fell in love with this band all over again. This, I think a lot of people are kind of saying this is Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 3, which I think they actually tried to do back in like 2005, I think. I didn't hear that one. I'm not sure how successfully that one was, but I really don't think you can do that without the original lineup who wrote those two tremendous albums. So they're back. This is a self-titled album. So fucking good. Like I was going to say, it's not very often that an album comes across my lap that just has so many perfect songs in a row and just gives so much to the listener. There's tons of albums that I put on that has a couple of good songs or a couple of good parts, but this thing is just absolutely teeming and bursting with energy and fun and challenging moments. I just can't say enough good things about this thing. So check out the new Helloween. It's got a great album cover on it too. Yeah, that's all I got for you. I hope you check this out. Let me know what your thoughts are on it. And by the way, if you want to support more videos like this, check out my Patreon. Patreon.com/brain_smasher. We'll see you next time. Thanks.